There you go.
There we go. All right, I'm gonna get started. Hey, Edie. I'm gonna get started. I'm sure more people will jump in, but I appreciate y'all being on time and taking the time to spend this hour with me. I I am just a year and a half into being a short-term rental owner. I currently have two short-term rentals. I'm in the process of buying one more with another one on the back of it, so I will have four by the end of the year. I have one long-term rental, of course, my primary house, and two commercial buildings. So I kind of got a hodgepodge of things going on. So the reason I wrote this class is because when I bought my first short-term rental, I didn't know what I was doing. I did a ton of research. There's just a lot of spattered information out there. So I thought I got to start compiling it. So I started compiling it for myself. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to put this, like group it and put it into kind of a presentation, do it for the office. And now I literally am asked almost every day at some office to teach this class. So I'm happy you guys are here, and you know, any nuggets you can grab, any nuggets you can give, please do. Okay, so who am I? I've been a realtor for about 21 years, going on 22 years now. I have a small team with Keller Williams Realty. I am a mom. The reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to build long-term wealth. I want to be able to have a day where I don't have to be in the real estate hustle, where I'm not, you know, out there hunting and fishing for business. I want mailbox money. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for my future. I'm doing this for my children's future. So that's hopefully, you know, you're in game too. How many of you guys have short-term rentals? Who now has at least one? I know Clark does. Rania, you have one. She's on mute. I know two of you guys do. So I want some input and some things, mistakes. I want to hear mistakes you've made, lessons you've learned. You know, we are learning the hard way. Okay.
I do have one. Now I'm not on mute.
Hey you. Hey.
Hey.
Okay, so disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, CPA, property manager, mortgage lender. I know my lane. Investors should get advice from an attorney, CPA, or mortgage lender before making an investment. Past performance of a property does not indicate future performance, and investors should do their due diligence before making any investment. My attorney said I had to say this, so there we go. Let's roll. Fun facts. There's 13.2 trillion with a T dollars sitting in IRAs in the US. And why do you care about this? I'm going to tell you a little bit more in a minute. 30% of homeowners in the US own their house outright. They are sitting on piles of cash. 70% of homeowners have at least 50% equities in their home. That blew me away. That blows me away. But only 5.5% of Americans own a second property. Do you guys have any guess at how many realtors own a second property? You all that were in my first class can't cheat.
Plenty of them.
You think a lot? Okay, so what? Give me a, you know, what percentage?
20%.
20,
40?
Okay. 20. Okay. Any other guesses? Oops.
I would say about less than 20.
Okay.
I'm going to say 30 to 40.
Okay. The answer is about 5.5%. Sadly, most of the people on this over half are realtors. We should be looking at every property we go to list as a, hey, is this one that I want to buy? And you guys are like, oh my gosh, you're just going to buy properties. Clark and I are going to tell you how to get the money. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Okay. Crazy facts here. Any thoughts on these numbers? These IRAs, this is a gold mine here that nobody's talking about. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Rich versus wealthy. Rich is a person with above average purchasing power, but wealth is a measure of the ability to live without working. We all want to be wealthy. Doctors are rich, but if they get hit by a bus tomorrow, the money stops. Wealth is where you have built an empire, hopefully, that without working, your money's coming in. We're trying to build wealth. And the number way to build wealth is through real estate. So that's the goal. That is the goal. Make sense? All right. Okay, y'all take a second and just read these four things and tell me which one resonates with you. Anybody want to speak to one that just is like, ooh? Edie, what do you think?
90% of all millionaires became so through owning real estate.
Mm-hmm.
That just speaks volumes.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Anybody else?
I was actually getting ready to agree with Edie on that.
That one's like a wow. I like the landlords grow rich in their sleep without working, risking, or economizing. I'm like, ooh, mailbox money. Mailbox money is just a glorious thing, right? Anybody else have any comments or thoughts on these quotes? Robert Kiyosaki is a pretty smart guy. Real estate investing, even on a small scale, remains tried and true means of building individual cash flow and wealth. I mean, that guy did pretty good, you know. Okay. Alphabet soup. Oh, Lord, help my soul. How do I go back? Sorry, guys. Alphabet soup. So lots of people say, I have an Airbnb. It's not an Airbnb. Technically, it's a short-term rental. Airbnb is kind of like when we say we're going to make a Xerox. We're not making a Xerox, we're making a copy, right? So let's get a little bit of the lingo down as we're moving forward. A short-term rental, technically, and we're going to call them STRs, MTRs, and LTRs, is a 1 to 30-day rental. Those properties are furnished, and they typically earn 3 times the amount of a long-term rental. So a long-term rental is your typical rental. I buy a house, somebody rents it for a year, rents it for 6 months. That's a long-term rental, right? That's just the normal rental that most people are used to. Short-term rentals make about 3 times the amount of a long-term rental, and they're 1 to 30 days. Long-term rentals are about 6 months plus, and they're usually unfurnished. They're paying their own utilities, they're paying their own water, and so forth. But short and midterm rentals, midterms 31 days to 6 months. There is a very specific market for this, and if you can find a property in these markets, you will kill it. And I'm going to tell you some of the markets. Midterm rentals are 31 days to 6 months. They're furnished, and they typically earn 2 times of what a long-term rental could earn. So if you're renting a house for $1,000 a month, long-term rental, you can generally make around $2,000 a month if you midtermed it, $3,000 a month if you short-termed it. And there's pros and cons to each, which we're gonna review. Thoughts, questions? Okay. What is a short-term rental? Lease is under 30 days. It's ideal for tenants who are relocating, visiting family or friends, in town for business, in town for a football game, a concert. You'll hear people call them Airbnbs, VRBOs, or vacation rentals. Technically, they are short-term rentals. They can be a condo, townhouse, detached property, single room. I have a friend, she's not on here, but I thought she might hop in. She lives out by Griffles in Clayton, and she has a big house, and she rents bedrooms out for people coming into town. You know, it's her jam, not my jam, but she's making good money renting bedrooms out. Her kids are all gone. She has 4 bedrooms. She's living in one. She's got a whole upstairs. I was like, okay, you do you. I just talked to a friend that has a business on Main Street where I have a business, and he just went to a place in Asheville where this guy owns the whole top of the mountain, and he's done like Hobbit homes in the side of the mountain. And he said all the doors around, all the windows around, like that's super cool. But the term is short-term rental. It cannot be a commercial property. It has to be a residential property, and the rates fluctuate per night. Midterm and long-term rates are fixed per stay. So short-term rentals fluctuate. That's a good and bad thing, and we'll talk about that. Why would I stay in a short-term rental versus a hotel? Hotels have pros for sure. They're generally in great spots in town. You know, you don't get a hotel that's, you know, not close to the restaurants and so forth. They build them where the stadium is, where the concert place is. You know what you're getting with the hotel chain. Basically, every Hilton's pretty consistent. You're going to get great service. And they all have other amenities that your short-term rental won't have, like potentially a gym or a spa, or, you know, all the other, you know, things that hotels provide. But short-term rentals have pros too. If you're staying for, you know, more than a week, you might not want to be living with 2 beds and a desk. You might want a yard. You want to bring your pet. You want to cook. You want to get if you're moving to town, you want to get to know the community, and you can also like save a lot of money if you're cooking and doing your own laundry there. Like all my rentals have full kitchens and washers and dryers. So in the long run, you could potentially over a hotel save a substantial amount of money by staying in an Airbnb, a short-term rental. Pros of owning them: flexibility. I have one at the currently have a house at the beach at Wilmington. I have a house in Greenville where my son goes to college, and I'm buying a house in the mountains. These are the places I want to go. I'm buying houses where I want to go. So if I have parents weekend at ECU, I can block my short-term rental so that I have a place to stay for parents weekend. Now I don't, because I'm making $350 a night and I can stay in a hotel for $100 a night. So I'm not, but it gives you flexibility. You can rent or little as much as you want. My first short-term rental is the first one's in Greenville, rented for 38% rental rate the first year, and I netted $26,000. Only rented 38%. I mean, it's not a great rental rate, to be honest with you, but it only rented basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Parents visiting their kids, coming in town for football games, coming in town for school tours. I'm not doing beach long rentals. Make sense? The pros of owning is it brings more cash in long-term rental. We talked about that. There are deductions. There's you can deduct the cleaning, the maintenance, the insurance, the management fees. That's accountant stuff, but just know that there are deductions. Yeah, I wanted to include, and I will send this presentation out to everybody that's here because there are some links in it that are good links, and this link to the IRS website about short-term renting is a really good resource. Also, there's less wear and tear on the property. If I've got somebody in the house 38% of the time versus a long-term rental 100% of the time, then I'm not getting as much wear on the carpet, wear on the kitchen and everything. So, that's one of the pros for sure, is less time people are spending in your property. Thoughts, questions? Want to stop? Anybody have any thing popping in their head?
Yeah, on the deductions, do you have to set it up as an LLC?
You do not.
You do not. Okay.
You do not. You can. Damn it! Did I do it again? No, I'm on the right page. You do not have to set it. Clark, do you want to speak to that?
Well, no, I was just going to say one other thing with the deductions. No, you can do it. I do it individually. I'm not under an LLC with mine at all. The other thing is that you didn't put in there, our HOA fees are also deductible if it's an HOA.
Thank you. And you know all about some HOA fees, don't you?
Unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Yeah, Cassandra, I've got a question on
Yeah,
that
Brad.
note. And this is stuff you guys maybe get into it later, but it sounds like you're doing more of the individual titling. Would you not recommend an LLC or some other title?
Okay. So I own one individually and one as an LLC. And again, if you didn't hear me saying, why am I looking down weird like this? You guys are all on a screen down here. So if I look strange, I have spoken to multiple people that have multiple opinions on this. LLC will definitely give you some level of protection if you get sued. But from my understanding, and again, I'm a year and a half into this, there are some things that are not as advantageous for taxes if you are in a business. Clark, do you have any more insight in that?
Yeah, I've spent hours talking to my attorney and my accountant about this. So being a single person and owning the property under my individual name, I have an LLC and a DBA for it. However, I'm still taxed as an individual and not as an LLC. So, I'm paying an extra $200 something a year to keep the LLC up when I'm just going to be taxed like I would be as an individual. Everybody's situation's different, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If you're a single person, you don't have partners, whether you're doing it individually or in an LLC. Just get an umbrella insurance policy that would protect you over having to worry about liability with the LLC. Because the other thing to think about here is, from a deeding standpoint, if it's deeded individually and you do the business operations as an LLC, you still could potentially be liable personally because the property is deeded to you individually and not in the LLC. I'm not an attorney, so double check that. But that's at least what I've been told.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. That's good to know.
The other thing is, if you buy an LLC, you have only certain loan types And Clark, you're the loan guy, so do you want to talk, you just touch on that briefly? And you have to put more money down generally.
Yeah, and also the interest rates may be a little bit higher too, because you're vesting into an LLC instead of individual.
Correct, yep. So, okay. So cons of owning short-term rentals, less consistency with payments. Even though you might be making 3 times the amount, if you have a 38% rental rate, it might not be, as much as if you had just rented it for a year and you were covering your, taxes, insurance, and so forth. You pay the utilities on the short-term rentals, and believe me, they'll leave the doors open, the windows open, the AC on 65. Utilities are high. It takes more effort. You're the innkeeper, you're collecting the payments and scheduling and so forth, even though there's some amazing tools for that. There's more cost maintenance. You've got to do, you got to have an amazing housekeeper. You got to have a yard person, pool or whatever. There's maintenance that you have to do to the house. If there was a long-term renter, they're probably cutting the grass, they're changing the filters and so forth. Some neighborhoods with HOAs make it real difficult. This is something I will express now and again. Before you purchase any short-term rental, check with the neighborhood HOA, the town rules, the county rules. New York City, no more, all these people with short-term rentals, and they just said, nope, you can't do them anymore. Okay. I mean, that's a real problem. You've got to be real sure, and you never know what's going to change tomorrow, but especially with the HOA, townhomes, almost all of them, the big majority of them have written in that they won't allow HOAs. Any newer communities generally will not, allow short-term rentals. So something to be really cognizant of.
Another thing to check would be rental caps too in that HOA. Just make sure that the rental caps are okay. You probably will have to do a little bit of digging on that. The other thing is making sure that the municipality doesn't have some form of a short-term rental cap as well. I think there's some stuff out in the mountains where there's limitations on how many properties within the town can actually be an Airbnb and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, and 2 examples of this. So Garner, where I live, they have said that yes, you can have Airbnbs. Okay, cool. But they've made a map, and the only place you can have Airbnbs is White Oak Shopping Center, where Best Buy is and the movie theater is. So they're not saying you can't have a short-term rental. They're just making it so there's absolutely nothing available in those areas. Now, there is a little sliver down Main Street and some other little residential places, but they didn't want to go to say, no, we can't do short-term rentals. They're just going to make it, hard. So don't just call the town and say, do we allow short-term rentals? You got to dig a little bit deeper. And then in West Jefferson, where I'm buying this next home, you can do short-term rentals, but only in medium and low density areas. So along Main Street there, you cannot do them because that's considered high density. So there's more nuances than can you or can't you. It's, you got to dig a little bit deeper.
Another I was going to say another thing you might want to check on, and you might hit this with sales and use tax too. Like for example, my condo, I have county and I have state, county, and city taxes that I have to pay, all sales and use tax on top of my regular property taxes.
Yep. Cool. Thoughts, questions, ideas?
Cassondra, do you manage them yourself? Are you?
I do.
Okay.
I've gotten really lucky. If you can find a fantastic cleaner who is the glue, because she's the one or he's the one going in and out and telling you whether, somebody's trashed the place, anything's broken. I actually have 2 cleaners for each one, my main one, and then oh my gosh, she's sick one, and then a yard keeper, a good grounds person, and then a handyman on call. You can, in my opinion, manage it yourself. And like I said, my one's in Greenville, my other one's at the beach. So I'm not at either place, but I'm not finding that I need a management company at this point.
Okay, so you haven't run into any issues yet.
Nope. Not yet.
And I'm going to actually agree with Cassondra on that. My property is currently actually being managed by a property manager, but 90% of the time she's calling me asking me what I want to do. It's like somebody to
hey
do
lady.
that.
What do they generally charge? 20%-ish or?
So mine is charging me below market, which is, I think where I'm at down on Topsail, it's generally about 18% for property management. I'm being charged 12, but partly because I'm kind of running the show with her as well on it.
Gotcha.
I was kind of using her as a a guide to kind of get me through my first year. This is my second year now, but as a guide to get me through the first year to understand what was going on and how the whole system worked.
Yeah, and I talked to, you guys probably know him, Brian Holt. He's a realtor today. We were having a conversation at the top producers lunch or whatever. He's paying 22% for his place in Carolina Beach for a management company. So 20% is probably a good number.
Cassandra, can I ask you a question?
Hey, yes.
This is a Garner question. So we have a home at Emerald Isle. The kids are grown and now we're down there the majority of the time, and the large house in Garner is just sitting. So we're over along Lake Benson. Do you think that that is a non short-term rental zone?
It 100% is.
It is. Okay.
Mhm. I have a map I can send to you. It's so ridiculous. It literally is White Oak, and down Main Street of Garner, and some other little tiny spots that you're like, there's no houses there. So now, with that said, there is no governing or enforcing body in Garner, at least at this time. So I said to him, what happens if because I'm a anyway. They're like, well, at this point, we just had to get the rule on the books for when it becomes a problem. And then when it becomes a problem, we'll start enforcing. So when somebody screws it up for everybody, they'll start enforcing. And there's no grandfather clause in Garner. I tried to ask that as well. Because I have a client that's bought 5 Airbnbs or 5 short-term rentals. I even say Airbnb myself, short-term rentals in town. And she keeps them completely booked with clients that are moving here or building houses.
Yeah.
And their house isn't ready. 5 completely booked all the time.
Yeah, we had a wedding in town, not in Garner, but people were coming into town, and there were a few in Garner and they were all booked.
They are, yeah.
Surprised. Yeah.
Yep, totally.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything on this?
When they do those rules on short-term rentals, is it a blanket rule for midterm rentals and long-term rentals as well, or just short-term rentals?
I don't know. That's a great question. No, it's not long-term for sure. Midterm is the one I'm going about.
Gotcha.
I think term is a gray area. I think it's more, you have to look at the individual rules for each municipality is my guess, because a lot of them are really targeting the short-term rentals. Like up at the mountains where my dad's property is, there's some specific rules about the number of Airbnbs, and then there's specific rules about how many nights minimum you can rent it. So I think it varies by municipality, to be honest.
And who do you go to find that out? Like how far do you have to dig within the township in order to find it?
There's not like a talk to the short-term rental person in town, there's no specific, you got to dig.
You just go ahead, pick up the phone, ask about short-term
with the
rental
HOA
rules, and they'll
first.
pass you around.
That's right.
Okay.
Start with and get it in writing. Start with the HOA, because the HOA is going to rule a lot of them out.
Gotcha.
They just are. And then if you get past the HOA, then go to the town.
I would possibly look at the planning committee.
Yeah, that's probably right. What were you saying, Rania?
I do have a question, actually.
Yeah.
So I was watching this video, and this lady was talking about this is about the cleaners. She lets her cleaners like refill things or whatever. Like her. Does she like? I know some of them don't, but do you like agree with her? You pay her extra? How does that all work?
So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great point. There are people that have cleaned houses for years that are very good at cleaning houses that are not meant to be short-term rental cleaners. They need to be your eyes on this house. They need to take pictures when they arrive. They need to take pictures when they leave. Because I'm not leaving feedback via VRBO or Airbnb for these clients until my cleaner's been there to see what they did to my property. I also have an owner's closet. Everybody should have an owner's closet. It is some random closet in the house that you have a lock on. Mine have the keypad locks. She can get in it. I can get in it. She's replenishing K-cups, sugar packets. I have a whole coffee bar that she redoes. Everybody gets a roll of toilet paper and an extra roll of toilet paper, a roll of paper towels, extra roll of paper towels, trash bags. Everybody gets a clean sponge. Yes, there is a supply closet that I keep fully stocked at all times. And it's her job, and this is different than just coming in and cleaning the house, to replenish all of that stuff. Now, you might not do a coffee bar, or you may do, a hot tub, and somebody needs to take care of the hot tub. Like, you need to work out with your cleaner whatever the need is for that specific property. Like, what if there's a grill? Who's scraping the grill and cleaning the grill?
Yeah.
That's why I don't have grills. None of my properties have grills. And she blows off the front and back deck too each time. Yeah, I mean, this is something you need to come up with a checklist, and I have a checklist if you need it, and tweak it and make it yours for what the expectations are.
Yes, please send that to me.
I will. Yeah.
Do any of your properties have pools? Are you dealing with?
No way.
Okay.
What is
Just
it?
for liability and for
Uh-huh.
upkeep.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, if you have a pool, it'll rent. Somebody's going to pick a pool. Like, we went to the mountains a couple years ago before I had any properties, and it was a mom's trip with mom's son trip, and the mom that booked it said it must have a fire pit and it must have a hot tub, and those were the things she was looking for. My place in Greenville, I'm getting ready to put an EV charger in there, an electric car charger, because there's only 4 houses in all of Greenville that have EV chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I think my rent rate's going to go way up, to be
How
honest
much
with
do
you.
those cost?
$400,
That's not bad.
and probably about $400 for an electrician to put in. So I think I will get that back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? All right. Arbitrage. Arbitrage is a way to have short-term rentals, but not own the properties. You're using somebody else's money. You basically are renting the short-term, or you're renting the property from the landlord and making a short-term rental out of it. This is the way a lot of people get started in short-term rentals. If you don't have enough money to purchase the property, you can go to somebody and say, I'd like to do arbitrage on your property. Why would they do that? Well, you're paying the rent. They don't care. You're paying the rent. They know they're getting the rent. And they're probably getting less rent, less traffic in the house than they would if somebody was in there for 365 days a year. I would definitely use a business entity if you're doing arbitrage. What else? The advantage to you is you don't have to pay for the investment. You're not putting 20-25% down for these properties. This is not something I've ever done, but it's certainly a way to get into the market. Do a little research on it, but arbitrage is do you have anything on this, Clark, that you want to add?
This is a new one for me.
Okay.
I would say, though, make sure you have a good accountant and a good lawyer, because there's probably a lot of nuances with it.
For sure. And you definitely want to have your business under business entity, because you are actually a business at that point. You're not individual renting, you're a business renting. Anybody doing arbitrage, or know anybody doing arbitrage? Okay. Something to look into. It's a way to get started if you don't have the money to put down to purchase the property. All right. The Augusta rule. The Augusta rule was started in Augusta, Georgia, where they have the big golf tournament. Y'all might have heard about the golf tournament down there. What everybody was doing when they were near the golf courses, they were leaving their house for the 2 weeks that people were in town and renting out their house. So they made this rule called the Augusta rule that allows someone to rent out their home tax-free for 14 days or less a year. It can be any type of home, mobile home, apartment, condo. It cannot be a commercial space. It has to be in the US. And it's a loophole for taxes. You don't have to pay the vacation rental tax for these properties. And this chart over here it's more complicated than it has to be. The general rule of this is you could rent any property that you currently own right now for 14 days less a year tax-free. Okay. So if you've got a place next to RBC where concerts are coming in, and they don't have to be 14 consecutive days, it's 14 days total throughout the year. If you have a place next to the fair, I mean, damn, you could have rented it all week to people out of town, coming to the fair. I don't know, any property that is, something around it that is a big in Pinehurst, they've got big golf tournaments in Pinehurst. All right.
Okay, so you're not using that Augusta rule because I've heard some people use it for their own personal where they can rent it to themselves. And I heard that's just
Rent it to your business. You personally rent it to your business. No, I've never done it. It's just something I wanted to,
Yeah,
note
because I've
that.
talked to a CPA about that. They say there's a lot of like paperwork around it, and he's like,
Okay.
it's probably worth. It's more of a headache than it's worth. But I didn't realize that it was tax.
Well,
free.
if you're next to the Masters, you're renting it for $1,000 a night. It might be worth it for 14 nights. If,
No, I mean, like what you're doing is, yeah, renting it to yourself, like using, like, how you can rent your own personal home to
yes.
yourself. Yeah.
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 No.
But I didn't realize that it was tax free. That's awesome.
So why make your property so short-term rentals 0 to 30 month or 1 to 30 month days, sorry. Midterm rentals 30 days to 6 months. Why make your property a midterm rental? There is a segment of people who are desperate for these properties. People coming into town for work, nurses, military, airline professionals. They need a place away from home for their short-term need. They don't want to stay in a hotel for 30 to 45, 60 days. The advantages for you is that you get more occupancy than the short-term rental. They will pay higher than the long-term rental. It's 2 times. It's less communication, it's less turnover, it's less cleaning the property. You need a furnished property, but you don't have to go in there and clean every week. So there's some savings there. There are 2 areas that are excellent for this, Greenville being one of them. Greenville not only has all of the parents coming into town to look at the college and visit the kids and go to the games, they also have a teaching hospital. ECU is partnered with the local hospital right there in town, and these nurses do rotations for 6 weeks to 3 months. These nurses are so desperate for places and I know of a property that would be an amazing midterm rental. It's literally right next to my son. It's a flip property. It's beautiful. 189. If you're interested, I will pass that information along. It's amazing opportunity because the nurses are constantly reaching out to me as a short-term rental saying, can I stay for a month? And I'm like, nope, I don't want to tie up my house for a month. So I'm turning them down all the time. So I know they're out there looking for properties. Greensboro also has a college and a teaching hospital. Another great opportunity for midterm rentals. Thoughts? I mean, that's all over the country. I'm just talking about in the North Carolina. Any other places you guys know have a teaching hospital that I'm not aware of? No? Okay. Is long-term rental best for you? If you're like, look, I can't deal with the constant having to get somebody in there to clean, people coming and going. I will tell you that the first house that I bought, my intention was I bought it my son's freshman year. I was going to rent it that first year. And then when he became a sophomore and could move off campus, because you have to stay on campus the first year, I wasn't going to let him move into it. But I bought a 1925 historic home and I fell in love with it. And I thought, there is no way I'm letting these 19-year-old goofballs move into this property. Like, no way. But I have cameras on all my properties on the outside. It hurt me to watch people come and go out of my house. Like, I was, and I am still emotionally I just love this house. I just love it. It's just so cool. So I thought at some point, maybe I'll just switch it over to a long-term rental so I don't have to see all these people coming and going in the cameras because it's just oh, it's my house, You got to detach the feelings. I'm not real good at that. But I considered making it a long-term rental because you get fixed monthly income. You know exactly what you're going to get for the year. I'm getting $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month, whatever it is. With the short-term rental, you don't know, it might not rent it all for the month. You're getting no income for the month. It's never happened to me, but residents pay for their own utilities, gas, they're generally cutting the yard, they're changing the air filters. Like we said, there's much less to manage. That you don't have to furnish it. I spend about $10,000 on every property to upfit, and I'm cheap. I'm on Facebook Marketplace like a fool, like it's my part-time job, looking for, for good furniture. And you can find a lot of good furniture. It's almost become like this treasure hunt for me on Facebook. I bought a sofa set today. But I buy most of my stuff from Wayfair, Overstock, Amazon, and Facebook Marketplace. But it cost me about $10,000. Now, I don't have any luxury properties. I'm doing 3-bedroom, 2 baths. I'm making them pretty. I'm putting pretty on them. We're not doing, hot tubs, saunas, anything like that. Okay. You can get a security deposit for these properties, and less turnover, less hassle. The places where you can generally find long-term renters: Home Finder, Realtor.com, Zillow. Thoughts, questions? Okay. How do you choose? Ooh, it's a tough one, right? You found a good property. Like, what am I going to do with this place? What are your goals? Are your goals to make the most amount of money you can as fast as you can? Short-term rental. Do you want to hold the investment for just a few years? You know, or are you just going to invest it and it's in an area that's up and growing and you're going to flip it? I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to sit down and consider. How much time you want to spend managing? Do you want to furnish the property? I love decorating homes. It makes me happy. I think it's why I keep buying homes, so I can decorate homes, to be honest with you. But some people are like, I do not want to deal with that hassle. I do not want to deal with making sure the cleaner shows up. The cleaner doesn't show up and you've got somebody checking out at 10 and checking at 3. That is a stressful day right there. I mean, that is a real stressful day. So there's a lot of things you need to consider when deciding on the property. Cool. Okay, what to look for in a short-term rental. So think of yourself as a renter. Why would you stay in a short-term rental? What is it giving you that a hotel isn't giving you? Generally, you want something you don't have at home. You want the hot tub. You want the private pool, Shelby. Water view, that's money. Any water view is money. The fire pit, a great outdoor space. You definitely want a great outdoor space. That is why they're staying in your home and not in a hotel, because they want to sit on the back deck and drink a beer after work. They want to, sit outside and drink wine and watch the boats go by. These are the things that you need to think about when purchasing a property or upfitting a property. Is what are the amenities that a renter is going to look for. My EV charger, I think it's one of the smartest things I'm going to do. It's not a sexy thing, but if somebody has an electric car and comes to Greenville, they're getting ready to have the 5 options of places to stay. Right now they have 4, and 2 of them are dumps. So, and it is a search feature. When you're searching on VRBO or Airbnb, it is a search feature. So something to think about. Again, don't forget to check town and HOA rules.
And the other thing with that too is, water or anything like that, that means more money, more rental income.
But also more output on insurance.
Yeah.
Generally.
yeah, absolutely. But my oceanfront condo, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, I can rent for $600 a night in peak season. The insurance cost is a little bit higher, yes, but you can offset that. You definitely can.
Yep. So where do I find properties? Your favorite realtor, right here. Call me. I'll find you properties. Facebook groups. Raleigh has a Raleigh NC Airbnb host club. That's exactly what the Facebook group is called. All the time people are posting on there, selling my Airbnb. They'll give you, the rate, the rental rate, how much it's average rental rate, how much it's renting, what percentage of time it's renting. And they also oftentimes are saying, look, I'm done being a short-term rental. I'm going to convert it to a long-term rental. I got to get rid of this entire house of furniture. And people will buy entire houses of furniture. I actually sold a townhouse to a lady in Greenville, and she bought every piece of furniture from somebody selling on the Raleigh group and just moved it all down to the townhouse. She didn't have to go and hunt and peck for stuff. Friends and family, ask somebody, or if you're thinking about selling your house, you've got somebody that at the beach that's looking to sell, or at the mountains, hey, I might consider that property because it would be a great short-term rental for me. Current home or part of your home. Do you have a garage behind your house you can convert? The house I'm buying in West Jefferson is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and behind the property is a 32 by 16 foot metal building that's brand new. And I thought, I don't want this building. Maybe I'll sell it for some paint money. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. We're upfitting it for an efficiency. So I'm putting a second short-term rental on that same property. So something like that. It's a shed. It's a metal shed, metal roof, metal sides. I'm going to make it all country looking, and I don't know. I think it'll probably rent as much as the main property, and it can be we've got 4 people staying in the main house and there's 2 more people that can stay in that house. Fix and flips. The way to get really rich in real estate is to buy properties, fix them up, and put the sweat equity into them. That is, buy a property, live in it for 2 years, because after 2 years, you can defer the capital gains tax. Live in it, fix it up for 2 years, move on to another property. This is bachelorette life stuff, but that's how you get real rich in real estate is fix and flips. And if you have a current long-term rental, when that lease is up, move it over to a short-term.
Do you have recommendations for contractors that like to do flips? Because, when you're looking at property and then you're looking at paying top dollar for a normal contractor to come in there, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
I would get really good on YouTube and literally do as much of the work. I myself am doing every bit of work. I have a table saw, I've got a nail gun, anything that's not electrical, plumbing, or HVAC, I'm trying to do myself. Contractors are really hard to come by, as you know, and they know they're hard to come by, so they're charging redunculous prices.
Yeah.
So I would get very handy. Like, for example, the kitchen in West Jefferson House is hideous, but the cabinets are solid wood. I'm going to go in there with some little trim pieces and make shaker style cabinets out of it. I can do that in a weekend instead of replacing all the cabinets. That's the kind of stuff that, as real estate professionals or investors, we need to start learning how to do some of that kind of stuff. I'm also going to put trim on all the doors. The doors are all flat panel. They're just as boring trailer looking as possible. I'm going to go in and just trim them out. That's how you really make money, is by doing the sweat equity.
And I think that that's huge too. I've learned a lot between remodeling my house here in Raleigh and remodeling the condo. YouTube and Google are your friends.
Yeah.
And you can definitely do more than you think you can do.
I totally agree.
Save you money and you feel great about it in the end.
Yeah. So think about this, and I'm asking each of you this question. If you could have a second home anywhere, where would it be? Just tell me where it would be. And it doesn't have to be in North Carolina, like anywhere in the world. Where would it be?
At the beach.
Beach, yeah. Which beach?
Maybe Topsail.
Yeah, Topsail's great.
And I do want to talk to you about Wilmington too, because we're starting to look down there now that my daughter's down that way.
Yeah. Edie, Taylor, Brad, where would you guys have a second home?
I'd be in the mountains.
Yeah, mountains are my jam. Yeah.
In the mountains.
Okay.
We have a second home in Emerald Isle, and I kind of want to buy something up in Cashiers, get something in the mountains. But, definitely knowing that we wouldn't use it as often because it's a drive.
So when I was married to a builder, and we bought a house in oh my God, my brain, I swear to God. Right below Wilmington, between Carolina Beach, good Lord. We bought a 3-2 ranch for $275,000. He put an addition on it, put 2 more bedrooms and a bath. So it was 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. When the market crashed and we were going, oh my God, what is happening? We're freaking out. We bought for $275,000, put a $50,000 addition on it. We sold it for $250,000. We lost our butt on this place. I wish at that time, of course, this is, 10 years ago, we would have just made it a short-term rental. Like, why? We didn't even think about it. We're just like, we've got to sell it. We got to sell it. We got to sell it. We should have rented it out and kept it, and it would be worth, $700,000 now. So, there are things that I just didn't, and you might not be thinking of, but why wouldn't you buy a house where you want to be in the mountains and rent it out for part of the time? You're not living there. Let somebody else pay your mortgage and have a second home. Now that brings me to my next point. You can have 20 second homes. And people are like, what? You can have multiple second homes. The general rule of thumb, Clark, keep me on track here, is they have to be 50 miles from each other. Like, you can't have 20 second homes in Wilmington or 3 second homes in Topsail. Correct?
Yeah, so it's within 50 miles, but here's the other thing. When you are going and closing on that loan, you are signing an addendum in your mortgage that states for the first year, you are primarily using it as your second home. So there's something holding your feet to the fire on that. Obviously, circumstances can change and you could possibly get that changed around. But typically, if you're going to treat it as a second home, you've got to make sure you understand you're signing for it to primarily be your second home for that first year.
So on the second year, then you can convert it to a rental, right?
We don't
And
care what
how-
you do after the first
What
year.
kind of time do you have to commit to for a second home? Is it 6 months or is it less?
So the rider typically says that you are agreeing to use it as your second home, primarily as your second home for the first year. So there's not really a timeline per se in it, to be honest with you. It just has to be basically considered that you're primarily using it as that. But there's no like 6-month timeline or you can only rent it for a 5 days timeline or something like that. It just has to be basically considered that you're using it primarily for that purpose.
And Clark, let me ask a question on that. Is when you say second home, that terminology basically drives what the loan product and the rate?
Yes.
Yes, and right now in our current market, to be honest with you, investment and second home rates are pretty much right on par with each other. You're not really getting to huge savings one way or the other. Back a couple of years ago, when interest rates were down at the floor, basically, second home and investment properties had substantially different rates and terms. So right now in this market, a second home or an investment property is going to be the same either way you slice it.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. And they're pretty much underwritten the same way? Like, are they looking at the same? Like when we go to do the loan?
No, Cassandra, I'm assuming you have a slide on this. So do you want me to wait to jump in on this in a minute?
Because I would assume they're looking at like potential rental, like when you're qualifying for it. Like, so maybe your third and fourth property, you would need to do it as an investment, so they see that income. So you can
Potentially.
qualify potentially.
There's
But not
there's
necessarily.
several different loan products. So there's a debt service coverage ratio loan product. And if I'm jumping ahead, Cassandra, please tell me to stop.
That's all right. I got a slide, but it's all right. We're here.
I'll tell you what, let's go on ahead and go to the slide and then
Okay.
I'll pick up on that.
Okay. Where do I get the money? Look at that. Good timing. Okay, there's lots of sources. People are like, how am I going to pay for a second home? There's lots of sources. This is Clark's phone number up here. I knew I'd put your phone number into the slide. Clark and I own a company called Newcastle Lending Partners. So if you have, and he, like I said, he knows the products, he knows he has short-term rentals himself. Put him in your phone. Regular mortgage lenders, they can do second homes. They can do, I'm doing a DSCR loan through Clark right now. Credit union state employee is very generous with financing second homes. Debt service cover ratio, these DSCR loans we keep talking about, you need no personal income verification. Go ahead, Clark. You do your spiel on this.
Yeah. Okay. So debt service coverage ratio loans, basically, we are looking at the income of the property. So an appraiser will go out and tell us that the property makes $10,000 a month short-term rental. As long as your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are $10,000 a month or less, it qualifies. So it's got to be a 1% ratio, basically. You need to have about 20 to 25% down. Credit scores, typically we like to see 700 or better. We can sometimes do a little bit lower. Cash reserves, which basically is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, we need 6 months. So you multiply the payment estimate by 6, and that's the minimum amount of reserves we're looking for. And that doesn't have to be bank accounts, cash, stuff like that. It could be retirement accounts, stock accounts, anything but crypto in essence that we could source can be used as accounting towards your reserves. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed. I think I covered all that through a high level there.
I'm taking notes.
You
Bank
count
account.
401k too?
You can count 401ks. If you need to take a 401k loan, you potentially could. We would just need to look at the guidelines on potentially holding that against you, depending on whether it's a loan or disbursement. Trying to think of what else. That's really it. There's no, they're not looking at your debt to income ratio. So you could have a high debt to income ratio and they wouldn't care. As long as that property grosses and goes over that 1%, it qualifies, as long as you're meeting the other guidelines, credit score, down payment, all that.
Hey, Clark, I've got a question. Do you
Sure.
have experience or guidance regarding, I see self-managed IRAs with that type of money going into the purchase
So
with a loan as part of the deal?
we have a channel that does self-managed IRA loans. They're called revocable loans, if I remember correctly. It's a bit of a niche. We do them. I would need to do a little bit of research on the guidelines, but typically my understanding is that you would need at least 50% down in order to qualify for that. I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, that's what it was the last time we researched it.
Okay, good. Good to know.
Clark, I have a question too. Going back to those, the DSCR loans, what are they using to determine like what that monthly income is on a property? Is it, you need to have, like, say it wasn't a rental before, are they just running it through like a service that like a Airbnb, whatever that is, Air DNA?
Your DNA. Mhm.
Yeah.
No, what they're doing is you're paying for an appraisal. The appraiser goes out and gives you the valuation, and then they do what's called a 1007 market rent analysis. So
Okay.
we want to ensure if it's going to be a short-term rental that we let the appraiser know to appraise it as a short-term rental and not as a long-term rental. We've had
Okay.
instances where we've not told them, or whatever the case may be, and the valuation comes in low because they weren't aware that it was going to be a short-term rental. So
Okay.
if you do one of the debt service coverage ratio loans, the first question I'm going to ask is, what's your game plan? Are you doing a long-term rental? Or are you doing a short-term rental? And then we'll let the appraiser know, and then they'll tell us.
Okay.
And that's what we're using to validate that income.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, how are the rates compared to like a 30-year mortgage on those?
Mhm.
The rates are a little bit higher. And again, the reason that they are a little bit higher is because the bank is taking on a much more higher
Yeah.
liability and
Or
risk.
risky?
We're not doing a full doc loan here. We're not looking at, we're not basically picking everything apart to get this done. So, right now, conventional loans are running in the mid 8s. You could probably plan that you're going to be in the high 10 to low 11 range.
Oh,
I know
wow.
that sounds
Okay.
really high. But the other thing is, as the market comes down, you could always look at potentially refinancing as well.
Marry the house, date the rate, right, Trish?
That's right.
The other thing to consider on this too is a lot of the DSCR products have prepayment penalty options. So if you're willing to do a 3, 4, or 5 year prepayment penalty, you could possibly get a slightly lower rate. So the prepayment penalty, though, locks you into that interest rate for that period of time. And there's usually a 2 to 5% penalty if you refinance or back out at any point during that period. So that's one caveat to it that you've got to consider.
But then Clark, like after 2 years, you can refinance and lower it like a certain percent or something. Like, and then after 3 years, you can go a little bit lower. Am I talking out of turn?
Yeah. So if for example you have a 2 year prepayment penalty, as soon as you get to month 24, we can refinance it to whatever the rates are at that time if they're lower, which we hope they are. You could then, after making 7 more payments, if the rates go down even further, you could always do another refinance then too. You're just locked in for that, whatever that penalty period is to start.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a DSCR loan on my house in Wilmington, and my rate's 9.1, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I'm paying that. But I got a great deal on the house, and the house is appreciating. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. I mean, if you're getting a property that's going, and I did a lot of work to it, a lot of sweat equity into it. So, I'm not so concerned about the rate because I'm renting it for more than my bills are each
Well, that's
month.
what I was going to ask you. Are you cash flowing?
Yeah, cash
much?
flowing it, and it's appreciating.
Yeah.
So my rate in West Jefferson, I think, is going to be 11%.
Yeah, I'm sure you have this somewhere in your presentation. I'd like to find out like how you're determining those, like your rental rates.
We're going to get there.
I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, it's been an hour, y'all. I'm talking too much. Okay, sorry.
Hey, Cassandra, I'm sorry. Can I ask one more question
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the prepayment piece?
Of
So
course.
prepayment means paying off the entire loan, correct?
Yes.
Not so much paying additional principal down every month.
No, you
Correct.
can pay additional principal. The whole thing is just don't pay off or refinance the loan in essence.
Yes.
And real quickly, one other thing, where do I get money from that maybe you're going to tap on Cassondra home equity?
Yeah. I'm not, but I'm going to put that in my slide next time.
Something else you could potentially look at doing is taking out a second note on your primary residence or a home equity line of credit. I actually did that for my condo down at the beach. Obviously, whenever you're running your math and your numbers, you need to include that payment in your out-of-pocket expenses. But I basically went in and did a 10% down second home, and the 10% came out of my home equity line. So I basically went in net zero on the transaction.
Love it. Yep. Okay. Self-managed IRAs. Why do I bring this up? You're like, what are you talking about? If you worked for a company and you had an IRA and you left, most people just leave their IRA there. They're just, it's with the company. But if you leave, you can roll that IRA into a self-managed IRA. And there's companies that do this. Equity Trust is the one I'm currently doing it with. And like I said, there's $13.2 trillion of money sitting in IRAs. If you put it into a self-managed IRA, not one that's currently with the company, you can't do it if it's still with, you're working for SAS or you're working for IBM. It has to be rolled into self-managed. You can use that money to buy all kinds of things, Bitcoin, gold, and real estate. So you may have money sitting out there that you're not tapping that you can use to purchase properties. Now there's a lot of rules behind this. It has to be bought. You got to pay for every single thing with the IRA. You can't pay for the home inspection out of pocket. There's a lot of rules to it, but there is a lot of money sitting out there that can be used to purchase real estate. So if anybody has that scenario, or you can educate your clients, hey, anybody got money sitting in an IRA with their old company? Let's talk. Let's buy a house. Use it.
On those, are you able, because I think I had looked into something like that, and can you use it yourself too, or it has to be strictly like an investment?
It has to stay an investment, and you're not allowed to do any of the work on it yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So
there's some really strict rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cassondra, I've got some experience with this, not with single family homes, but I did it quite a bit more passively with an apartment syndication group.
Oh, awesome.
So I gave them, I can't remember what it was, $100,000 or whatever, but over a 3-year period, I didn't do anything. And they raised the rent over time to market value, doing work and, all kinds of things to the property. And it was about a 22% return over a 3-year period.
Fantastic.
But
you can partner
like you guys were
IRAs
saying,
too.
any of the income has to stay within the shelter of the IRA.
Yes, it
So
does.
in my question earlier to Clark, if I take, let's just say $100K from a self-managed Roth or traditional IRA, whatever it is for whoever, and then you finance the rest, how does that piece work when you're getting rental income back out of it? Like,
I don't think you can. I don't think you can finance half. I think you have to partner with somebody. Am I wrong on that, Clark? Do you know?
What was the question again? I apologize.
Can
the
you use
question
part
was,
of a, go ahead, Brad. Yeah.
we were talking about self-managed IRAs, using it for real estate, and I've got some experience with that, but not with individual, like single properties. So if we're doing a long or short or medium, midterm rental product, like Cassandra's in Greenville, for example, if she's buying that today with, say, $100,000 of IRA money, but wants to finance the rest of it, how does that work? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Or does it work?
I don't think you can.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, would you have to just buy it outright, or?
You'd have to either use your whole IRA, you'd have to have enough money in your IRA, or you'd have to partner with somebody else's IRA.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, and I'll look into it, but I don't think you can.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty certain if it's an IRA, it's got to stay within that for tax reasons, but that's a little over my realm of expertise, to
I
be
can
honest.
dig around a little bit more and talk to my custodian.
Yeah, I
about
will too, because now I'm curious myself. So
Yeah, I can always ask our guy as well, our broker partner on it to see if they know, but my gut tells me if it's in an IRA, it all needs to stay in an IRA. I don't think you can pick and choose on that.
okay, we talked about this. You could have multiple second homes. People, that always blows people's mind. They're like, I already have a second home. I'm like, you can get another second home, a second home in the mountains, so second home at the lake, second home at the beach. There's second homes. There's the 50-mile rule. There are some exceptions, like if you own two different types of properties, like a condo and a single family within the 50 miles, that's up to the lender. Why second home? Generally, right now does not apply. Second home loans rates are better than investment rates. Not right now. You're going to be putting 10 to 20% down for second homes, and you have to occupy that second home for 2 weeks per year to be considered a second home after the first year where you have to occupy. Wait, hold on, Clark. After the first year that you can't rent it.
So in that paperwork that you signed, there is
Okay.
no real guideline that describes the number of days that it has to be considered a second home.
Okay.
It just has to be considered primarily a second home, and that's only for the first year. After that first year, there's no cap, rule, guideline, any of that. It's free for all after that.
I think this is for tax purposes that you have to occupy. And there's nobody saying what days were you in the home, but for it to be considered a second home and not just a straight investment rental, you have to spend 2 weeks per year there.
Exactly. And one thing to point out too, you're signing that document. The big thing is the lender is not going to completely know what you're doing with your property unless you foreclose on it or don't make your payments. So
What's that document called, out of curiosity?
Do what? Say that again?
You know what the document's called?
It's a second home rider. That's all it's called, second home rider.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thoughts, questions? I'm sorry I'm taking you guys over time. All right, let's roll. How do I know it's going to be profitable? You have to do a short-term rental analysis. There's a couple of things, a couple of ways that you can do this. You can look at the potential income, or if there's rehab costs, utilities, property, get all of the factors together of what it's going to cost you. Figure out what your occupancy rate is going to be. Is it going to rent 100% of the time? Is it going to rent for 50% of the time, 38% of the time, like mine? And look at your average daily rate. You're like, how am I figuring this all out? I'm getting ready to show you. One thing to think about is seasonality too. Your beach house is probably going to rent, April through October, pretty heavy, but October through April, probably going to be slow. So you got to kind of look at the seasonality too. You can't just say, oh yeah, my average daily rate is this, and my my number of nights is that. You got to look at some of the seasonality. There are tools. B&B Calc. I use AirDNA in all the rooms. Those are the 3 tools. This is actually my property that I bought in Wilmington. When I was looking at whether it was going to be profitable, I looked at AirDNA, and it said for 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with 6 guest occupancy, the average daily rate is going to be $192 with a 36% occupancy rate. I'll probably make $25,000. I'm good with $25,000. I just wanted a place to go to in Wilmington and not pay for it. That's it.
The other thing that you could look at as well, and these are skewed numbers to an extent, but what I did was I bought in a condo community where there were a lot of short-term rentals. My unit was a short-term rental. I asked for the property management company to provide me the last 2 years of rental history. Now, granted, in my circumstance, the first year I rented, I made double what the old property management company did.
Oh, really?
But it
Nice.
gives you a benchmark so you can at least get an idea of what a worst case scenario may be. Of course, where I'm at, the property managers down there weren't doing a lot of marketing, and it was through their company and not any of the short-term websites. But you can use that as a benchmark to try to get some ideas.
Love that. Yep. How much should I charge per night? The ADR. I had no clue. I don't know what to charge per night. You can do the cost-based price model. Again, rent, utilities, cleaning costs, divide it by, 30 days, blah, blah, blah. You can do the market based model, look at the location. Are you renting out the entire home? Or you can do it the easy way and buy a tool like I did called Price Labs. Price Labs is amazing. I think it's $30 a month. The super cool thing about it is I don't ever have to look at rates. My house in Greenville, if there is a football game in town, some magic person knows that there's a football game in town and my rates go up. If there's nothing happening, my rates go down. So my rates are different every single night at that house. And I just trust the system that they are looking at whatever's happening on the calendars in town. My house in Wilmington, when it was Azalea Fest, rates were through the roof. Now rates are down. The rates fluctuate and I am fine with it. I believe that they're keeping track of all the activities in town. Thank the Lord, hallelujah for $30 a month. They can have my $30. I don't want to be chasing those rates. Thoughts, questions? All right. Where do I find renters? Okay, these are the two biggies, VRBO and Airbnb. I mean, those are the two biggies. There's bookings.com, there's other ones, and people say, should I get one or the other? I'm on both. I get about 50% of my rentals from each. They're very different in the fees that they take and so forth. And I'm not going into all of that. I've got it right here if you want to look into it a little bit farther, but I have rented each property on both.
I have a question about that. Not
Yeah.
the rates, but how do you keep track if one is trying to rent on Airbnb?
Let me go to my next slide, Miss Rania.
Oh,
Oh no,
okay.
that's not it. This is talking about Airbnb taxes and so forth. You're gonna pay rental tax, just like hotels. You pay tax to stay in a hotel. There are taxes to stay in Airbnb.
Hey, to back up real quick, Cassandra, 1 second. On that slide with the VRBO for hosts, the annual subscription fee.
It's gone.
Well, no, it's not. It's not.
They wouldn't give it to me. You said that you could get it. And I called and they said, we don't do that. I'm like,
Well, I press some buttons. You just basically have to say something like my property manager had it under them or something like that, and you can get it. But I do have it. You just have to call and sit on hold for an hour to get it potentially.
okay. That's a pretty good gig. I'll take that. Okay. Taxes. All right, real quick. Direct bookings pros and cons. You guys can set up your own websites. WordPress, Wix, Squarespace all have templates for setting up your own websites for letting, my cousin wants to book. Well, you don't want them to go through Airbnb or VRBO and have to pay all the fees and so forth. Be very careful letting people you don't know book through these sites because you lose the coverage, the Airbnb, the insurance that they give you. There are some pros of booking through those channels. But if you want to set up a little side website for friends and family and so forth, it's not a bad idea. You're not losing, they're not taking a cut. Okay. But there's less visibility. I wouldn't just go this way. I wouldn't just, unless you have got look, I know I'm going to keep my place rented through people I know, knock your socks off.
One other thing that's huge is like down on Topsail, there's a giant group that's got about 20,000 members in it that look at VRBO and then will book through that space because they'll book direct with you to save the VRBO fees. It's definitely an attractive option, but you're right. You got to make sure you have a contract and a good security deposit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because through Airbnb, if somebody trashes my house and they book through Airbnb, I call Airbnb and go, we got problems. And my cleaning lady takes pictures before and after. Airbnb will reimburse me if I make a case. If they book through your WordPress site, good luck. You're doing an insurance claim.
There's some insurance options out there, third party wise too. I've got to research that more, but I know there are options.
Okay, real quick. Should you self-manage or do a management company? How much time do you have? How much work do you want to put into it? How much do you want to pay? This is what it boils down to. I don't feel like I'm putting a lot of time and effort into it. I'm self-managing. I'm having no problems. But, again, people are buying, places in Costa Rica, Mexico. I mean, think just beyond North Carolina, and I probably wouldn't self-manage those. Okay. Should I purchase under an LLC? Talk to your accountant, talk to your attorney. There's pros and cons to both. Okay, this is what you were asking, Rania. So you definitely want to have some kind of tool. Airbnb and VRBO do talk to each other, not well. I use Hospitable. It's a third-party software, and it keeps a calendar for me. So like I pull up my hospitable calendar and I can see that Sonia has booked through Airbnb and Edward is booked through VRBO. It'll tell you who you book for, and it will not let it double book. It won't let you double book. It does some other cool things, like I've set up, as soon as they book, an automatic email goes out and says, thank you for booking my place. So excited, blah, 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 blah. You know, I fill out this form. I have them fill out this little form that just tells me about them. Are you bringing a pet? So forth. Then like 3 days before, it says, hey, did you know, this is going, these restaurants are in town. And I have this really cool, and I'll pull it up so you guys can see it, virtual guest book. It sends that out. Then the day before, it says, don't forget check-ins 3 o'clock. Don't come before 3 o'clock. Day of, an email, and it's email and text goes out and says, here's your code to get in. I've got door codes. And then the day before checkout, it's like totally automated. I do nothing. It's great.
So that's all through that hospitable.
OwnerRes, Hostaway, Lodgify, Guesty, they all do it. I found I had Guesty, it's too expensive. Hospitable is the cheapest for like 1 to 3 or 4 Airbnbs, in my opinion. And I love it. It's been great. It tracks your income and expenses, it'll generate reports, so forth.
So Cassandra, is that all templated, or can you customize those automated messages that go
So
out?
there's templates, but then of course I changed them all. And then when I added my second Airbnb, I just copied them all, and it has like insert, a percent sign, and it'll say like insert, and then it'll just say house name. So now as I get more properties, I'm like my one at EastU, I called the Pirates Hideaway. The one in Wilmington, I called the Blue Door Bungalow. So it'll just insert the name of each property. It's the same message going out, but it knows because of the address which property name to put in there. It's cool. The hospital's great. Okay, setting up your short-term rental. You got to get it furnished. Again, I spend about $10,000. I get a ton off Facebook Marketplace. I do not buy rugs off Facebook Marketplace. I would never buy a mattress. I only buy leather couches. Leather couches hold up the best. You can find cheap leather couches. Matter of fact, yesterday somebody was giving away a beautiful Italian leather set, giving it away. They said, come get it right now. I couldn't go get it right now. I'm so pissed because it was a love seat and a couch. $200, $300 I pay for these couches. They're real Italian leather. Their dog hair does not stick to them. I allow dogs on my properties. It's another thing that allows me to, be different from others. Again, I am scavenging Facebook Marketplace all the time. What I can't, because so I close on my houses in West Jefferson on December 15th. Between now and then, I bought a truck. I bought a truck a couple months ago just so I can go and grab this stuff. Little junker truck. I'm just grabbing stuff off Facebook Marketplace. Anything I don't have by then, and we're talking side tables, headboards, stuff like that. Let's talk about that too. Hard surfaces, people. We want no tufted headboards. We don't need any fluids in headboards. We need hard wipeable surfaces. We don't want any padding on chairs. We want metal or hard chairs. We want leather couches. We want washable rugs. Everything needs to be cleaned. We don't need to do any fluffy, furry pillows. Nothing like that. You got to think about this as a place that's going to have people coming in that are spilling drinks, kids with lollipops. It's got to be cleaned. I have a great friend of mine who has a beautiful, beautiful place in 5 Points, and she sent me the picture. So what do you think? I was like, oh my God, this place is going to be trash. She's got a white couch. She's got furry pink pillows. I'm like, it's everything I would not have done. And I'm sure it's lovely and it's going to be great. But for me, I would never do any of that stuff. And I have, and I'll get to it, a list of everything that I think is a good thing to put in. I made an entire blog post for you guys. And yes, I do get paid a little affiliate fee from Amazon if you buy anything, but I would have killed to have this to get started. Okay, this is my welcome book. I think this is a live link. So I use TouchStay. I created these books in TouchStay. So this goes out in one of my automated emails to the clients. It says, hey, you're coming to Greenville in 3 days. So excited to have you. Some things to know about Greenville. A little about me, how to contact me before you arrive. something about the airport. Let's talk money, honey, deposit. Once you arrive, how to access, where to park, about the property, appliances, Wi-Fi details, house rules. I mean, I did it. I spent days on this. All the local bars, entertainment venues, where to go to the grocery store, restaurants, coffee shops, how to check out. This was a labor of not love, but once you do it once, I just copied the entire book and I changed it for my Wilmington house, and you can just duplicate it. And I mean, a lot of it's the same. Once you arrive, check-in time's 3 o'clock. That's going to be exactly the same. Things that'll change is like Wi-Fi password and stuff, but like 85% of it was already done. My house rules are the same for every house. I just had to change some of the nuances for each property. So I'm doing that through Touch Day.
Do you have a physical notebook as well, or just this?
Nope. And this goes out to the main renter, the main what's the word I'm looking for? The person that is the booking it. And then you can do a QR code. So on the back end, I printed out a QR code that I've hung on the fridge for any of the other guests that come that say, want to know about the area. It says, want to know about the area, bars, restaurants, coffee shops, breakfast, I think. And it says, scan me. So any of the other guests in the house can scan it and they get right to this book. Okay. All right. Focus on the details. You want to wow these clients. We are hustling for 5-star reviews. And I hate it that it's that way, but it is. 5-star reviews are why people book your place. You want to be a super host on Airbnb. It is what it is. You want to give them a wow experience. Some people, I stayed at the Outer Banks. The place we stayed in, the lady left a basket of all these like fancy chocolates from a local chocolate place, a bottle of champagne, a bunch of cheese. I'm like, I ain't never doing that, but I won't forget it. And I gave her a five-star review, but I don't live at any of my houses, but you make it as, as personalized as you want. I'm not doing it. More effort, more success. I mean, that's basic life.
What was getting the neighbors on board?
Did I not have it? Oh, I'm sorry. I did skip that. And that's big. Yes. If you go knock on the neighbor's door and say, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to have an Airbnb next door. If there's any problems, here's my phone number, call me. That's going to be a much better call than the neighbor next door and your renter getting in a fight. And then it's a disaster. So I would really, really get real nice with the neighbors.
I can speak volumes for this. I can also speak volumes for if you've got an HOA, be best friends with your HOA manager. The number of phone calls she gives me to warn me about things is monumental. Yeah. Things my property manager doesn't even know about. And she'll call me and she'll tell me about it.
Yep. Thank you, Trish. I skipped that one. Establish the rules. Oh, yeah. Can I smoke on the property? I skipped everything. Establish the rules, set the rules up front. So if they break the rules, there was no confusion. My rules go out in an automated email. I have a Jot form that goes out that as soon as they book, it's just a little form I made in Jot form. You can make it in Google Forms or whatever. It says, I'm aware that my rules it's my whole list of rules. And then they like electronically sign at the bottom. Then if I've got cameras, if somebody's smoking in my house or doing something, they're out. I'm calling Airbnb and going, get them out. They broke my rules. What else? What'd I skip? Okay. I think we're good there. Okay. I put the list together and this is a growing list of what you need for an Airbnb. This about broke me about getting ready. Like I thought I was ready and then I didn't have this. And then I thought I was ready and I didn't have that. I created a website called str-ready.com. And this list is out there and it is basically everything I think you need for the kitchen, the living room, the bathroom, everything, like massive amounts of lists. Again, all hard surface, easy to clean, like these chairs, what I'm talking about, easy white chairs, these chairs, nothing tufted, nothing, like we'd want for our home. No. So if you guys have anything that you do in your short-term rentals, people love this coffee pot, let me tell you, because you can do a pot and a Keurig. This ice maker, I get tons of reviews on. They love the ice maker. My little coffee bars in the house are Things you didn't even think of, like somebody wants to drink wine, but they're not done with the bottle. Give them wine stoppers. There's a lot of stuff to think about to put in a house. I have put these lists together for you. Bed electronics. There's things called, of course, I have Ring doorbells. Ozone, you're going to need an ozone machine. Somebody's going to smoke in the house. They're going to smoke pot in the house. I'm telling you right now, ozone machine will be your best friend. There is a party squasher. Some of the best money I've ever spent. This device goes in the house. If the decibels in the house get above a certain level, it sends me a message. I have programmable thermostats. If they crank that sucker down to 55, it sends me a message and I can do it right back up. So there are some things that are money well spent up front that I promise you will be happy you got in the end. I don't provide any cable service at any of the houses. I do smart TVs. They can log into, everybody's got a Netflix account, whatever. They can log into their own accounts. I'm not giving them any of that stuff. This thing, this charger thing, get over here, buddy, that I put in all the outlets. People love that. It's a $14, they can plug in their cord. It's got all these extra extensions, put them in every bathroom. I use these Wise cameras. They're $30. They're brilliant. So this is the Schlage doorbell that I use. So
one thing you don't have on your list that you might want to add is a water leak detector.
Ooh,
I have a ton of Wi-Fi water leak detectors under the toilets, under the sinks, and around my water heater.
oh my
And
gosh,
they're fantastic.
I'm buying them
to see if there's a
today. Never
problem.
even thought about it.
I'll send you the link.
Thank you. That's excellent. Okay. So str-ready.com. What would make the guests comfortable? You're buying a house in the mountains next to the ski resort. How about a ski rack a holder for skis outside, a boot warmer, a boot dryer. I mean, would that be a nice touch, right? If you're at the beach, are you giving them beach towels? Are you giving them beach chairs? Think about what would make their stay more comfortable. Do not decorate your STR like your home. Again, hard surfaces. You will need an owner's closet that's locked, that you keep all of your personal items in. If you want to stay, sometimes people leave their own stuff, like their shampoo and their stuff, for when they come and stay. I don't do that in any of mine. I just have like toilet paper, Tide Pods. If you put the Tide Pod thing out there, you've got a washer and dryer, and you're like, yeah, those Tide Pods will all be gone. Let me tell you. All your toilet paper will be gone. Your paper towels will be gone. Everybody gets 4 Tide Pods. They get 4 dish tabs. They get the roll of toilet paper that's on, and 1 extra in each bathroom. They're not staying for weeks. That's enough to get them by. Make sense? What do guests want? Pool or hot tub? Shelby. Oh, Shelby's gone. They want free Wi-Fi. That's not even an option. You have to do free Wi-Fi. They want televisions. They want free parking. Can y'all guess out of this list what's the number one thing? This is just a list of that people were polled that they wanted. Can you guys guess what the number one thing is?
Pets allowed. Having pets.
An iron.
An iron.
What was the number one thing people wanted in their short-term rental when they were polled? An iron.
Why?
Well, because they're traveling on business. Business people stay in
Oh.
these short-term rentals, But pets allowed is probably pretty high. I just remember iron being number one. I give all of this. My house in Wilmington, I made a mistake and I will never do this again. I have street parking and no driveway parking, and nothing pisses me off more than I pull up myself and I cannot find a spot in front of my own house. I've got stuff to unload. They've got stuff to unload. That has been a mistake I've made that I will not make again, not have dedicated parking. So. All right, how can I add extra value? Partner with a local business to give them gift cards or coupons. Go to the local bakery and say, hey, I'm going to have people coming constantly. I'm going to tell them to come here. Give me some, buy one, get one free coupons I can leave. That's no money to you. Super, like wow to the people coming in. EV charging station, fenced yards for pets or kids. That's huge. Play equipment and a desk for remote workers. Those are some things I think add great value. Other thing to look at is go out on Airbnb and say, all right, if you're thinking about buying a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, go search in that area on Airbnb and VRBO for 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in that area as a potential renter and see what they're offering and do better. Cater your value, what others aren't offering, and what your clientele most want. Yeah. Insurance coverage, I'm not going into great detail about this. The thing I wouldn't want to say is what I said before. If you're direct booking through your own website, you are definitely saving money, but you also have a higher level of insurance risk. And I'm going to go to insurance, I think, the next page. What other insurance do you need? Talk to your insurance agent. A lot of insurance agents do not understand short-term rental insurance. I've got a great guy that totally understands what's needed. He's with State Farm. State Farm is definitely covers short-term rental insurance. You need 100% an umbrella policy, in my opinion, and you will need some other levels of insurance depending on how much you intend to occupy the house. I'm not going into great detail about it, but make sure your insurance agent understands what's needed for short-term rentals. Oh, last page. Handy tools. Turno. Turno is a great site. It has handymen, cleaners, landscapers on there. If you go to turno.com or download the app, when you first get started and you say, I've got a property with this many beds and this many baths, bid on it. That all of the short-term rental cleaners, especially in the area, are on this site, and they will bid. I'll do it for 135. I'll do it for 150, and so forth. So it's kind of like Fiverr. You know, you go out there and that you just say, I have a job, and people will bid on it. So I would recommend having, at least 2 cleaners so they can back each other up. The digital guest books, again, mine's TouchStay, Hostfully, and Rubaroo are other digital guest books that you might want to check out. And then remote locks, I 100% encourage you guys to put the door codes. You don't want anybody having a key that can make a key and come back with it. So put electronic locks on it. And then through remotelock.com, I can change that lock every stay. And if somebody gets locked out, I can unlock the doors for them. So super, super convenient to put remote locks. I like Schlage Encores.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you and pause for a moment there. Here's another thing too with the door locks. I have one that goes on my phone, and I have multiple codes. So I can see when the cleaners have come in. I can see if the property managers come in. I have my own code, and then all the guests have random codes. So you don't have to worry about confusing a cleaning person with whatever the code of the day is or whatever. And it's great because then if somebody says, well, the unit wasn't clean, well, my cleaner was there. Maybe she did a crappy job. We need to look at that.
Yeah.
But it's all about accountability too.
Yep. We did it. We're only 30 minutes late. Thoughts, questions, ideas? Whose brain's going to explode?
Could you share your presentation? Like, it's recorded, right?
Yeah.
Can you share it with me so I can look at it again?
Yeah.
Because I'm setting up the Airbnb right now.
Yeah. Awesome.
And this was so freaking helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
Awesome. What else? Anybody else? Paul, you haven't said anything. Are you there? Connie, Christine?
No, this was great. Thank you.
Good. I'm so glad.
Yeah, you did a good job, Cassandra. This was fantastic.
Thank you. Hey, Christine.
Yes, very helpful.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm sure I'll have some.
Oh, hey, Paul. Okay, Paul has no microphone. Glad you came on, bud. Thank you. Yeah, again, this just came together because I was gathering information for myself because I was so overwhelmed when I was getting my first one together that I just didn't know where to start. So I started taking notes, and then the notes became a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint became a class, and here we are. So I would love to, as you guys go on your journey, if you discover anything, you're like, oh, I need to tell Cassandra about this. Like, I haven't figured it all out yet. This is just what I have put together. So love to kind of make a community out of it that we're sharing ideas and so forth.
When you're looking at properties, what are you looking for that tells you this would be a good short-term rental other than location?
Well, it's mainly location.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't buy any properties over about $275,000. One, because I'm putting 20% down, and it's a lot of money to put down. And I want a newer HVAC unit, a newer roof, a no carpet in the house. Those are the things that I'm primarily looking for. And in all honesty, in a location where I want to be. Like, where do I want a home? I'm doing this for selfish reasons. income, but I want a place to go. I'm tired of booking a hotel and I want to take my dogs, so location's mainly it, but I want a newer roof and a newer AC unit for sure. I can put pretty on anything, but I want the systems, hot water heater to be relatively new.
Thank
So,
you.
and the on-site parking. That's a mistake I made.
Hey, Cassandra, first, I wanted to thank you for taking the time. This is really good stuff.
Good, thank you.
How, I think as a follow-on to her question, when you're talking about looking at properties, how are you analyzing the deal? Is that just data that you're getting from AirDNA, or do you have
I'm all up in
a
AirDNA.
spreadsheet or a template that you're using? Because, usually a lot of these deals, whether it's long or short term or commercial, or whatever, you go through all the resources all over everything. And most people have like a quick way that they can analyze the deal to whether it makes sense to actually dive in with more time and resources. Is that something you're doing, or have you got?
I'm using AirDNA heavily because the problem is, like, you can go to Zillow.com and look at any property and look what the rent rate is. Well, that's the long-term rent rate. There's no data out there for the short-term rent rate, unless it was a previous short-term rental. So you got to use the tools that you have, and AirDNA is it'll tell you in this area for 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. In this area, they're renting for X% per night with this much rental rate per month.
Yeah. So then
Have
you
that
just have to do the math on purchase price and that kind of thing.
Correct. And then you got to call Clark and say, hey, man, I've got this opportunity. Run the numbers for me. What are we looking at?
Cool.
Yeah.
I still can't get over his name is Clark Howard.
So
Really?
I'll say something real quick. I get that about the radio guy in Atlanta, and my joke is I can tell you how to spend it. He tells you how to save it.
Right. Yeah.
That's good, Clark.
Hey, the guy's made money for a long time on the radio. So, hey, he made a lot of money in real estate.
In real estate, he sure did. Yeah.
Just like our friend over in Tennessee.
Yes, he did.
Dave Ramsey.
Ramsey.
Yeah, that's how they made most of their money in real estate.
Got that right.
Cool. Well, I've got to hop off, but thanks so much,
Sure thing.
Cassandra. But I'll stay in touch. And I'm looking at that house in Greenville, just so you know. I've been trying to do some researching all week, but work has sort of gotten out of control. We've gotten really
Good
busy,
work.
but that's something I'm going to do before I go to bed tonight if I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad.
Yep.
Taylor,
Hey,
your
thank you
parents
much.
have any questions?
No, but they're saying you did an awesome job.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you. I appreciate it. All right, y'all. Anybody else? Thank y'all for spending
Great.
time with me.
Thanks,
Thanks,
you.
Edie. Thanks,
All right.
Clark, for coming on and keeping me straight. Look,
Hey,
I
no
took
problem.
two sticky notes and I'm going to update my presentation with things that I should have said.
Sweet.
It's better every time.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Have a good night.